Right. So the reason that brings us together today, I'm Mark Huxley. I'm the immediate past master at the Worshipful Company of Entrepreneurs. And in February, we had our annual Raleigh Lecture where we bring young students into a room to talk from an academic point of view around an entrepreneurial topic. And on this particular year, we were exploring ways that we're using data from space to predict catastrophic events. And one of the speakers was to be Itamar Zabari, who's the CEO and CTO of Astroteq, and he will tell you much more about what he's doing, but basically he's using cosmic rays to forecast seismic activity. And Itamar was joined on the day by Dennis Ben-Suzanne, who is the head of space at Beazley. And Beazley is a very large, one of the largest Lloyd's of London specialist insurance providers. So I'm going to do no more than pass across to the two of them and let them pick up. Our shared experience is when Itamar was with Astroteq in the Lloyd's Innovation Lab, and both Dennis and I were his mentor. Sorry, I should have said that. So, but with no further ado, over to you, Itamar.
Everyone. So, as Mark mentioned, we have developed a system that can forecast earthquakes days in advance. And so the question is, how do we actually accomplish that? But before we dive into that, which is the biggest questions we are being asked, let's talk a little bit about earthquakes. So earthquakes are the #1 natural disaster in the world. In the past 20 years, it caused over 1.4 trillion euros in damages and over 600,000 deaths. Just 2 years ago in Turkey, one earthquake caused the death of 57,000 people and over $109 billion or euros in damages. And so the main question is, how can we reduce those damages and death? That's a use case that we have had from Turkey. So in the Turkish earthquake 2 years ago, there was a gas pipe that exploded due to the earthquake. So the earthquake caused a spark that caused an explosion. It resulted in over 10 days of shutdown and over 42 million euros in damages. And so with as little as a day of advance notice, those damages could have been reduced to about 2 to 3 million instead of 42 million. The existing detection stations gives us at best 12 seconds of notice time. If you're elderly, slow mover, if you have kids around, it's very hard to find them and pick them up and take them to a safe place in time. And before you're able to do anything, you're basically out of time. Unlike that, Astroteq can give today, it can provide days of advance notice. So imagine knowing a day in advance, a week in advance, that an earthquake, a big earthquake is about to take place. How many things you can do and how many people can you protect through that? And so how are we actually accomplishing it? Astroteq is combining cosmic radiation, STAR, and thermal imaging, where STAR is synthetic aperture radar. It's kind of a radar that is kind of satellite radar that scans the ground, and through that we are essentially measuring ground displacement. And thermal imaging allows us to look at changes at the ground or land surface temperatures. And by combining all the three with an AI, it allows us to utilize the AI in order to see anomalies in each and every channel and combine those anomalies in order to produce a forecast that is very accurate. On the cosmic radiation part, we have developed our own cosmic ray detector. One detection station can provide service to 300,000 square kilometers. That's basically the size of Italy. And it can provide us up to 14 days of forecast. So essentially, the cosmic radiation creates the baseline for the forecast. And if we have more than one station, we can have a relative earthquake localization. if it's closer to one station than others, we will know through our monitoring. The second channel, as we said, was SAR imagery. And what we're doing, we are tracking ground displacement through that, both vertical and horizontal. And there are changes in the way the ground is displaced as you get closer to the earthquake. And so we are measuring those anomalies. And another thing that we're using SAR for is essentially to pinpoint the expected epicenter of the earthquake. Third and last channel that we're using as part of our MVP is the thermal imaging, the land surface temperatures. And essentially, we have recognized that there are specific fluctuations a couple of days before, fluctuations in temperatures a couple of days before the earthquake takes place. Both SAR and thermal imaging cannot be used by themselves, but they are kind of their improvement to the forecasting. Essentially, by integrating them, we're improving the forecasting precision and dimensions. We can then deliver more information using those channels. So far, we have analyzed our system performance in more than around 6 areas. What you see here is just 4 areas that we have analyzed. And I think that the most important part here is that the closer the station is to the place of the forecast, the better the forecasts are. And just a quick run through the graph. On the y-axis, there is precision. On the x-axis, there is detected earthquake percentage. Higher is better, only if you can achieve higher precision. And so one can say that 50% is definitely better than 60% in case of Japan, because there is a huge drop in performance. That huge drop in performance, by the way, is derived from the fact that there is only one cosmic radiation detection station in Japan, which is simply not enough to cover the whole of Japan. So beyond the 50%, basically all of the earthquakes are falling outside of the detection station range. And as we are getting further and further away from the area of the forecast, so this station is actually in Argentina, and we were trying to forecast earthquakes in North Argentina. We were trying to forecast earthquakes in Chile, and it just doesn't work so well due to that. And so the expected performance of the system, when we were combining the 3 channels, is pretty remarkable. Where each and every channel improves on the baseline, and the baseline is the yellow line. By adding or integrating SAR imagery with a revisit time of every 6 days, that means an image of the same area every 6 days, we can uplift the system performance by about 14%. And if you have an image every 3 days, we can uplift it in 20% of precision. So that means that we can forecast more earthquakes than we could before with higher precision. As I said before, higher percentage of earthquake detected is better only if you can keep the precision of the system high, because we essentially do not want to come and tell people that there's going to be an earthquake, but it will not take place. That would be the worst case scenario, right? Like you come, you try to save people, you tell them there's going to be an earthquake, they're taking all precautions, steps, all moving, evacuating population, and then the earthquake doesn't take place. And so how many times can that happen? Not much, before they lose the kind of the faith in the system. And so that's why we have to make sure that when we tell you guys that there is an earthquake, we know with very high certainty that there's going to be an earthquake. This is an example of a whole year of forecast in East Turkey, and kind of that's 2 years ago. So you can see here, each and every line is an earthquake, and you can see that the system could have forecasted that big earthquake, the 7.8, about 4 days in advance. It showed that there's going to be a bigger earthquake with very high probability, like almost 100% probability. Unfortunately, we weren't fast enough to get the software, the system into market. and we missed that earthquake. 57,000 people died in it. So we are trying to get our system up and running as soon as possible in more areas than we have today, in order to save people's lives. The bigger question is, okay, given the fact that you can forecast earthquakes, what would be the impact on the market? How can you propel positive change? So after an analysis that we've done using the FEMA manual, FEMA has a specific manual in regards to kind of type of disasters, advance notice, and then potential reduction in damages. You can see that we can reduce damages for heavy industries in a ratio of 1 to 10. Nuclear power plants at a ratio of 1 to 160. Worker compensation. When it comes to insurance, we can dramatically reduce the required compensation because we can reduce the loss of life in about 70%. And oil, gas, and chemicals, we already talked about it in the beginning, but essentially it's between 1 to 10 to 1 to 14, depending on how effective and efficient your maintenance team is. Co-founders, so we are multicultural teams. So we have co-founders from Poland, France, and Israel. We think that multiculturalism is very, very important in order to drive innovation, and we're essentially pulling that through in our company. Our team, we have technology, business, research, hardware, AI, and we have advisors from various domains. And we have lots of partners like the European Space Agency, Polish Space Agency, Planet, ISI, the Israel Aerospace Industries, and more and more. And we were funded by many grants, smaller ones, and now we hopefully will get a bigger one soon enough, and angel investors. The targeted market for us is insurance, reinsurance, and brokers, government disaster management agencies, and oil, gas, chemicals, and heavy industries, where we are already in process to sign 2 pilots, with one with Turkey, one with Chile in the next 2 months. And when it comes to insurance and reinsurance and brokers, right now we have 1 agreement signed with brokers from Brazil, and we're working to get about another 4 to 5 brokers signed in the next 2 months. And each and every, so a lot of people ask, if you sell the system to the government and then the government will be notifying everyone anyway, why would the insurance buy that system from you? And the answer for that is that while the governments are securing, they have like a specific protocols that they go through, they will not let you know of every possible earthquake unless it is a very big one, and they would like to make sure that they would basically like to make sure there is no panic or anything around, and they will have their own processes. But insurance, reinsurance, they need to see much higher resolutions. They need to know about the smaller ones. They need to have more lead time in order to process things. They need to be better prepared for it. But also insurance and reinsurance, they are global. So even if we are signing, let's say, with Turkey, it doesn't solve a specific insurance company's problem, because most of the time their products are distributed throughout the world. This is how they're reducing their risk. Yeah. The targeted market, so the earthquake insurance market is 129 billion, and or it will be in 2027. And the earthquake forecasting or the warning system is about 3 billion, where we intend to receive about 1% of that. So by 2027, we are aiming to get around 250 million in revenue through combination of pilots and services given to governments, as well as integration of our system to insurance and reinsurance companies. I think that's maybe just a quick one. Lots of pilots planned. So we kind of managed to move from academia to prove that our system is working, and now we're about to commercialize with that. And I think that it's super important to the people that listen. Academia is super important. Breakthroughs happen in academia, and if you know how to take the right steps, you can translate those breakthroughs into actual impact on reality, on the world. In terms of competitive landscape, so essentially, Astroteq is the only system in the world today that has proven that it can forecast earthquakes again and again with the lowest infrastructure cost, period. So one cosmic radiation station costs, I cannot specify the exact amount, but very low amount of money. So that allows us to spread the system around the world relatively easily and without high infrastructure costs. The biggest, I would say, competitor that we have is Ayata from China, which is amazing by itself. They've been working for 8 years. And they are able to forecast earthquake. They can tell you that there's going to be an earthquake this week. They cannot tell you like tomorrow, but they can tell you this week there's going to be an earthquake with an accuracy of 72%. But their biggest drawback is the fact that they need to place a detection station, like 3 detectors per 100 square kilometers. So one of our stations is 300,000 square kilometers. They need to place 3 stations or 3 detectors per 100 square kilometers. So the sheer amount of cost for them to cover the same area that we cover is, I would say, a magnitude higher, which leaves us basically at the forefront of of earthquakes forecasting. In terms of future possibilities, we're looking to forecast tsunamis, which is number 2 most destructive natural disaster, volcanic activity, landslide, and other disaster, depending on the needs of our partners. Given the fact that we have a multi-channel system, we are able to forecast many different types of disasters, but we are very selectively and strategically selecting which ones we will tackle next. That's it, pretty much. So if you have any questions, Mark, Dennis, or Dennis, if you'd like to add anything.
Yeah, Mark and I are both based in London. London is the heart of the insurance industry. I think we are very interested to see how Astroteq product could be a game changer for specialty insurance and property insurance in particular. The insurance market over the years has suffered more from natural catastrophe, including earthquake. We believe that we're getting a lot of good solution coming from modelers and aggregators for most natural catastrophe, including flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires even. But there is a gap today, and the gap is earthquakes. So I believe, reaching the same level of predictability, modelization for earthquakes will be a game changer for insurance. And I think that's the business of Astroteq. And I would like to hear more from you, how effectively you could bring a new dimension to the table and facilitate and open some new business avenue for the insurance industry as a whole, and for corporation as well, which will be benefiting from improved insurance solutions. So if you can say a few words on that, and I can also follow up on some ideas that on which we've discussed and work on already.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to the insurance market and our potential impact on the insurance market, I would say that the analysis that we've done with the help of Deloitte's lab and the mentors that joined us there was that we have the ability to impact the insurance market on 3 main, I would say, domains. The first one is on claims. One of the biggest issues for the claims department is that they're being caught off guard when an earthquake takes place. So it's one of the only disasters that no one has the ability until Astroteq, no one had the ability to forecast in advance and allow the claims departments to prepare in advance. And that's an issue because once an earthquake, a strong earthquake takes place, suddenly you have thousands, tens of thousands of claims that essentially are opened or they need to be opened almost simultaneously. And it doesn't necessarily happen if your claims department is not ready for it. And due to that, instead of being able to process those claims quite quickly, it might take years to get it done. And then there is a risk, a very high risk of reputation hit for the insurance company, which takes it years to recover, and of course lots of money. So that's kind of the first domain. There are of course other points in that, yeah, but I would say they're smaller. The second one would be the kind of the products themselves. So right now, because the earthquakes are kind of so unpredictable and might be very big and the disaster level can be kind of catastrophic, the risks that the insurance companies take are very, very high. And therefore they need to charge a lot of money from the clients in order to ensure that they're not going to go bankrupt on such an event, right? At the end of the day, it's a business. It's a very important business for building resilience into a country that it is well embedded at. Therefore, we need to make sure that insurance companies are not being bankrupt by such events. So they have their own mechanisms to ensure that it's not going to happen, and they're doing it by essentially making sure that their premiums are high enough to they're translating their risk into their premiums. So once they're embedding Astroteq into their processes, into their products, they can essentially come to their clients and say, once there is a warning of an earthquake of magnitude, let's say 6 or 6.5 and above, you have to take mitigative steps and show us that you took those mitigative steps in order to reduce the potential damages to your business. Basically, it's using the same kind of, we're taking the same exercises or same practices from the existing playbooks. It happens in any other types of disasters that can be forecasted. It happens in a building when you would like to insure it. They tell you, well, you have to have a sprinkler system, you have to have this, you have to have that, in order for us to insure you. This way we can reduce the damage and make sure that their damages are kind of at the bare minimum that they can be. And so if it's well embedded, the potential damage reduction is very big, and therefore it can reduce their risk and eventually can reduce their premium. So we see it kind of as a gradual progress. It will not happen in the first or second year of integrating into Astroteq, but probably after 2 years of work with Astroteq and understanding what is the risk that they are facing now, they can then translate it into reduced premiums, and therefore they'll be able to, more people will be able to buy them. So to give them access to a bigger market with lower risk at the end.
And I think that's one of the things for the students that will be listening to this. Dennis put it very well, that the insurance industry has moved away from dealing with the outcomes of disasters to actually getting proper risk mitigation to actually prevent and mitigate down the cost ahead of it. And as one of your mentors, it was a thing that always stood out to me, that if you can get in ahead of it, even and it turns out there wasn't an earthquake, with a little bit of minimal cost, you've both saved lives, you've saved critical infrastructure inside a country, and you can deal with things ahead of it. So I thought that was a kind of for the student's point of view, to see a cultural change in risk protection, and that's the benefit that satellites and near space technology brings to us. Sorry, Dennis, I think I interrupted.
I would just add one thing. I think it's a great time to be entering the industry. It's a great time to enter the insurance industry as well. So that offer an additional choice for our young generation that, we want to, tell those people today. So I think, Itamar, you've been able to demonstrate one angle from that. There are other angles, but I think this one is
Yeah.
extremely important for the young generation, and it's a great time to be educating themselves, and it's a great time to start looking at what possible jobs you could do, and I think insurance is one of them. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, and I'll see you
Pleasure.
around in London, I'm sure. Thank
Which we heard in the room a lot from the other speakers about, particularly the keynote was from a man from the Met Office in the UK, and just how they're embracing technology, the artificial augmented intelligence that comes around the side of it, just to show that we can live on new planes that sit out there. I'm conscious we're kind of rapidly running down on time. Itamar, just back to you if you've got some closing thoughts, closing suggestions. Say, bearing in mind we've got some very, very bright young brains that were both in the room on the day, but kind of will be listening into this now. Any messages you'd like to put in their mind?
I think that they are living in one of the most exciting times that humanity has ever had the pleasure of living. So many technologies are maturing right now. From you have better climate monitoring and environmental tracking. You have better disaster forecasting and management. You have high resolution imaging. AI has matured greatly, say in the past 5 years. And then you have also IoT connectivity that essentially connects infrastructure in ways that it has never been connected before. And so all of those things essentially provide opportunities for new technologies, new advancement, new solutions that can be explored by them. The cost of developing new products today it's a fraction than what it used to be, let's say 5 years ago, with those new tools. And so they are living in, I would say, in an era that I would say almost everything is possible for them if they only dare. So I encourage you guys to dare. I see a lot of demonstrations against climate change, against all sorts of things, but real change comes from innovation, right? Even if the whole of UK will stop using, I don't know, coal or gas or anything that might generate pollution, it does not mean that the world will be saved. The world will be saved by creating a better, newer solution. It creates energy and is cheap enough to be adopted globally. That's how change is being kind of implemented throughout the world. That's how real change is generated. And so I would say, instead of, well, my own opinion, instead of wasting time in demonstration, ask yourself, what can we do? What can we really do in order to bring a change? What product can we develop? Who would we like to work with? Which area of expertise we find interesting, and start diving into that. And that is, how real change is created. And one last thing is, when we're looking at the combination of the technologies that are now being matured, it's the world is going to change completely in the next, I'd say 10, 20 years. So the progress of AI is exponential. It has an exponential growth. It's getting smarter and smarter by the month, not a year. Fusion, which comes to solve the AI power consumption problem, and essentially the world power consumption problem, is going to be resolved by fusion. There are huge advancements on that front. So within 10 years, 15 years, we'll have a fusion reactors that will provide energy, and human enhancement will start going to be bionic in a way. We will not be able to compete with AI. AI will kind of leave us behind unless we'll start developing ourselves either through accelerated evolution or enhancement using technology. And I think we'll be able to see both of those things. And then, of course, I don't know if you've seen just the recent videos of Optimus, that is dancing, actually dancing quite nicely by itself. Then you understand that in about 10 years, each and every one of us probably have a version of Optimus in their house, doing all of the things that they don't want to do: folding laundry, making laundry, doing all of the house tasks that you never wanted to do. It will do it for you, which means that suddenly you'll have way more time to either waste it on online, social media, or actually bring innovation into life. So I hope that you guys will choose bring innovation into life.
Oh, well
Yeah.
said. As another man from our industry, we rely on the future talent coming through, and our duty is to solve the societal problems of the world, which Itamar and Astroteq are doing on the front line. We sit behind it, doing it behind it, and there are any number of programs for bright young minds to come into the industry.
Yeah.
We need to close down now, but I'm glad you said the word dare, because our worshipful company of entrepreneurs, our motto is dare, create, succeed. So thank you for putting the tag in there. Itamar, I'm so glad we've managed to do this. It was tragic that you couldn't make it into the room on the day that people missed hearing, your fabulous story and the great things you're doing firsthand. Dennis was there, and he batted well for you on the day. So sorry you weren't there on the day, but thank you both for taking time out, sharing with the students. It's hugely appreciated, and I'm sure if we get any feedback, we'll get them connected with the pair of you. But no, just a simple thank you from us at the company.
Thank you. Much appreciated, Mark, for all of the effort and connecting us to this amazing organization. And I'll finish with this. Just try. If you'll not try, you will never succeed. So
Brilliant.
try enough. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks. Bye-bye.